Today we're going to talk about the stages of a rebound relationship. And perhaps what I find most interesting about this video specifically is your ability to pinpoint which stage you or your ex is in, and you can kind of determine when things are happening. Now this is specifically important for people who are trying to get their exes back, because what you're going to find as I go through these stages, there's one very specific stage where they are most likely to be susceptible for any of the strategies or tactics that we teach in order to repair the relationship. Now, like always, each one of these stages is based on our findings from real life scenarios based on our clients. In all, we're going to be talking about 7 stages. So there are 7 stages that we're going to be talking about with regards to the rebound relationship. So in other words, if your ex has moved on to someone new, what stages will that rebound relationship go through from beginning to end? Let's begin. Stage number 1, the grass is greener stage. So oftentimes we're going to start in a unique position. Most lists like this start immediately after your ex breaks up with you, or you break up with your ex and they move on to someone new. Well, what we've actually found is most of the time your ex is considering moving on to someone new when they're already with you. So how does that look? Well, they're with you, but they're unhappy. They're maybe not satisfied with the relationship, which leads them to think they can do better than you. In other words, they have a bit of the grass is greener syndrome. They think, well, if I was just with this new person, things would be better. I would feel better. And this actually, as hurtful as this is going to sound, happens most of the time when they're actually in the midst of a relationship with you. So they're debating whether or not to break up with you. They're usually daydreaming about going with someone else, or maybe they have that new person lined up. Maybe it's the person at work that they've been flirting with. But whatever happens, the grass is greener syndrome most of the time is going to occur when they're actually already towards the end of their relationship with you. Stage 2, the honeymoon period stage. This is where things get kind of unique, because with the grass is greener stage, your ex is basically with you and daydreaming about someone new. With the honeymoon period stage, this is where they've broken up with you, so the breakup has already occurred, and they begin to move on to someone new, and things are great. Almost always when they date this new person, when they go on the rebound, they are applauding themselves for making the greatest decision of their life. They're in the midst of the honeymoon period, this magical time of every relationship's life where nothing can go wrong, where you're excited and they're excited, you're into them, they're into you. The cracks haven't begun to form yet. Stage 3, the cracks begin to form. Okay, so probably the best way that I can put this is by drawing from personal experience. So when I was 18 years old, I got my very, very first girlfriend, right? So it's kind of like the puppy love type experience. But I found that you tend to feel emotions more strongly when you experience them for the very first time. And so that was certainly the honeymoon period for me. The honeymoon period with this person who I was in a relationship with in high school at 18, which is like a kid, but whatever. I'm using it because it perfectly illustrates this stage. The interesting thing about it was the honeymoon period, I literally was walking on cloud 9 everywhere. In fact, I was walking on cloud 9 that I was so happy, I didn't even think I needed to worry about other men or other guys hitting on her. That didn't even enter into my mind. I'm just kind of in this fever dream of happiness until the first guy hit on her. And she kind of reciprocated in this weird way, which began to create tension, worry, and we began to argue and have fights. And after that first fight, it was about 2 months into the relationship, it was like the cloud 9 turned into a thundercloud, basically. So my point is, oftentimes, the honeymoon period ends usually when they're in the relationship with someone new and they begin to have their first fights. The first cracks of, hey, everything's not perfect, begins to occur. Real quick, I want to say that if you're new to this YouTube channel or you're trying to figure out what you should be doing to get your ex back and you're trying to learn if you even have a chance in your specific circumstance, probably the smartest thing for you to do is actually stop by our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, or take our X Recovery Chances quiz that can be found at exboyfriendrecovery.com. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, taking that free quiz is super easy to do. All you have to simply do is look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can fill it out and get an easy answer on what you should be doing going forward and overall what your chances look like in your specific situation. All right, so let's get you back to the video. Stage 4, the fight or flight stage. Fight or flight, one of the most commonly used psychological concepts to explain how people react to danger. Usually what we find happen is once those cracks begin to form, arguments can kind of creep in. Usually problems that are existing don't really get addressed, which causes the foundation to crack even more. And eventually it hits this fever pitch where your ex in this rebound relationship kind of gets their fight or flight mechanism triggered. But very rarely is it going to be flight right off the bat. Usually that comes later. Most of the time, they're going to dig in with their position and argue more. So the cracks begin to form even deeper now. Stage number 5, the comparison stage. The interdependence theory is a theory that really helps us understand why human beings commit to other human beings. The basis of the theory is pretty simple. We human beings commit to people who we think are going to maximize the benefits in the relationship and minimize the costs of the relationship. We usually measure these benefits and costs on 3 specific criteria: how satisfied we are in the relationship, if there are better alternatives in the relationship, and how much time we've invested into the relationship. So oftentimes what occurs is sort of a similar redress of the grass is greener syndrome. So let's go through your ex's perspective here. They had the grass is greener syndrome with you. So that causes them to think, oh, I can do better than her. So we're hitting that comparison stage right off the bat at the beginning. Now what's interesting is he thinks or she thinks they find someone better. And the honeymoon period kind of happens, they're happy, then their first fight occurs and the cracks begin to form. They dig in and fight even more, causing more cracks to form, and this is when they start to think, did I make a mistake? Is my relationship really the best thing for me? That interdependence aspect gets triggered and they look for better alternatives. Maybe they're not looking actively, but it enters their thought. And what's interesting about this is they begin to compare you to the new person. And I always try to explain this to my clients. A lot of times their comparisons are going to happen a lot throughout the rebound relationship. At the beginning of the rebound relationship, they're going to compare the new person to you and think, see, I knew it. I was right. It's so much better with this new person than it was with them. But that subject of comparison is subject to change as the results of the relationship are kind of coming in. So when the cracks begin to form, when they begin to fight, they compare again with you and realize, this person's not as good as they were. And this is a key component for what's going to happen next. Stage number 6, the disillusionment stage. Have you ever been in a situation that you know you're not happy with, but you're too afraid to do anything about, and so you just let it go on and on and on? You become almost disillusioned with it. You become almost numb to it. You kind of go through the motions. You're constantly thinking, I need to get out of this. I don't know how to get out of it. I really made a mistake here. Well, this is the disillusionment stage in the rebound relationship to a T. And this is usually the stage where we find most exes break up with their rebound relationship and begin talking with our clients because they're becoming disillusioned with this relationship that they thought was so great. And it's almost like they got tricked into it from the feelings that they felt during the honeymoon period. Now, we can go and talk for days about the honeymoon period and actually the negative impacts it can have on our psyche as we go from relationship to relationship. More specifically, we find sometimes exes of our clients get obsessed with just feeling the feelings and the emotions that they feel during the honeymoon period. So they're willing to go from relationship to relationship to relationship to re-feel this. But there's always a sense of disillusionment to that. Here's the point. If your ex is in the disillusionment stage, here are kind of the markings that will help you understand if that's happening. Number one is usually this is the stage where they begin to start talking to you more. So maybe if they weren't like really talkative towards you at all during the relationship, maybe they reach out to you and start to confide in you with how things are going. You'll notice that they aren't really spending a lot of time with their current girlfriend or boyfriend anymore. These are all signs of a disillusioned relationship. Now, it's also subject to long distance and things like that can have impacts on how this all works, but we're just gonna go with general situations right now. Stage number 7, the Epiphany Stage. So you're disillusioned, you're in a situation where you don't really want to leave, but you do want to leave, and you're kind of split between that paradox, and eventually something happens, something triggers an epiphany. And I say an epiphany, it's basically the simplest epiphany you can imagine. I am not happy in this relationship anymore. I want to get out of it. And that's when they leave. But what's fascinating about the rebound relationship stages in and of themselves is it's a slow progression towards this moment. This is kind of what we think defines rebound relationships. It's always doomed to fail on the outset. They just need to go through their stages at their own pace. Some stages last longer than others. Some stages are completely skipped. It doesn't matter. Each person is unique and has their own unique experience. Now, the one caveat I want to make here before they have this massive epiphany and break up with their current person is there is a time limit to this. We find that on average, someone who is in a rebound relationship is going to take around 6 months to get through these stages. That means if you are sitting there and watching this video thinking, okay, my ex did this, or my ex did this, and my ex did this, but it's been 10 months and your ex is still with this new person, they are no longer considered to be in a rebound relationship. This is a long-term relationship for them. It probably will end with a breakup, I can't guarantee it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it plays by the same rules as a rebound relationship. So understand that there is kind of a time limit to how long all of the stages should play out.